I should probably, I can't do it.
Can everybody please take their seats? We're going to get started this morning. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you. Welcome to Millersville University. Welcome to GreenCon. It's a day that's going to be full of a lot of exciting programs, networking, and then tonight will be culminated with our annual awards banquet, which we have some great awards to give out this year. So I'm going to do a couple informal ground rules and informational things, and then I'll give some thank yous, and then I have to introduce some of our great speakers to kick off our event today. Everybody who attends the event today is invited to join us for a reception this evening at 5 p.m., which is in another building right next. Gordonier Hall. So from 5 to 6 there'll be a reception. Everybody's invited to attend. We do ask that everyone who attends educational sessions today fills out a program evaluation. We'd love to hear your feedback on how the programs go. If you need CEUs, if you're a landscape architect or a lead AP or need AIA credits, make sure you sign up for the sheets at each program. Okay? All right. So why are we here today? We have three things that we hope to accomplish at GreenCon today. We hope to inspire you to, connect with new people and learn about innovative ways that we can all work together and create sustainable communities. That's our whole goal. We hope that you are connecting with other folks, whether it be like-minded or brand new people to the field. We want to introduce each other and connect and find common areas that we can really work together. We have over 40 vendors here today that provide solutions to what we consider sustainable construction, sustainable design, sustainable products, and we can really work together to really make significant impacts when it comes to the community and when it comes to the environment. We have 15 plus educational sessions today, which is outstanding. So if you're here for that, we hope you take advantage of it and learn some new things. I need to thank some folks. Bob Price, who's our executive director, he's in the back. Bob's worked tirelessly to pull this all together. Please give Bob a round of applause. And unfortunately, the chairperson who put this event together, Jan Russell, couldn't be here. She had a family emergency, but she has worked also with Bob countless hours. If you know Jan, please reach out to her and thank her. She really wanted to be here today. So there's a couple other major volunteers I'd like to thank. Tanya Reineman, if you could stand up, please. Josh Millman, who's here, who's on our board. Scott Pusey, who is here, who runs our advocacy for our chapter. And Paige Chrisman, who couldn't be here, but she does a lot of our graphics and marketing, which all of you know is very, very important. So, with that being said, thank you on behalf of the chapter. I'm this year's chairman of the board for the local USGBC chapter of Central Pennsylvania. Up first from Millersville University is the Chief of Staff, Dr. McCollum, and he's going to talk about Millersville University's commitment to sustainability, creating a greener campus, and becoming carbon neutral. So give him a round of applause.
Actually, I'm just going to have a brief welcome and highlight just a couple of activities. So, first of all, on behalf of President John Anderson and the entire Millersville University community, I want to extend a warm welcome to our campus. And it appears that winter is reluctantly letting go, but the good news is that spring is officially, at least here, only a few days off. And it's been a long winter, and but that warm welcome, I hope, extends to your entire day here. Millersville is really proud to be the host of GreenCon 2014, Central Pennsylvania's Green Living Conference, and its celebration of sustainability. I trust you'll find today's program both informative and, I hope, enjoyable for you. I look forward to seeing many of you later today. We have a booth, Millersville does out there. Please stop by, and I encourage you to avail yourself of one of Dr. Garner's tours if that fits into your schedule. She's doing 2 tours. When President Anderson arrived in April of 2013, he'll be celebrating his first year on April Fool's Day, the 1st of April. The university was already on a nice trajectory with its commitment to sustainability. We had established our Center for Sustainability with Dr. Nadine Garner as its director. We had conducted several zero waste commencement ceremonies, and we've been recognized by the Princeton Review among the nation's top green colleges for our overall commitment to being a responsible and responsive steward of limited resources and the planet that we share. We are especially proud of our TerraCycle upcycling program, with the proceeds going to the Smile Train cleft palate surgery program for children in underdeveloped countries. That's a life-changing surgery for a child in an underdeveloped country. This neatly connects environmental stewardship with issues of social justice and economic equality. And I know our keynote speaker is going to be reinforcing that the 3 prongs of what sustainability is all about. Well, Dr. Anderson was on the board of the American Colleges and University Presidents Climate Commitment when he served as president of Alfred State College. So among the earliest of many initiatives that he pursued when he arrived at Millersville was to quickly explore the environment for Millersville to become a signatory to the President's climate commitment, to reduce the university's carbon footprint, and ultimately to achieve carbon neutrality. Now that is a long-term goal. Most campuses are looking at that on a 25-year horizon, carbon neutrality, but you have to start someplace. The other interesting thing is with Dr. Anderson being on the board, it was an awkward position for him to be on the board and the new institution that he was president of to not be a signatory. So they gave him a grace period, and but we're proud to say that we're part of that effort now too. So again, I want to thank you for being here today. I hope that the conference and Millersville University's role as your host exceeds your expectations. Have a really productive day, and thanks for being here.
Okay, thank you. That reminded me, I have a couple other notes that Bob gave me. So we have some tours over lunch today. They're not published in the packet, but I wanted to make you aware there are new dormitories being constructed right now on campus that we're going to be touring at 12:30 and 1:30. There's a limited number of hard hats, but groups of about 20 would be able to tour those projects if you're interested. We will also have a Tesla available here. I don't know if we're able to test drive it or not, but it will be in the plaza, so you can definitely check that out. If you don't know, that's like an all-electric car, supercar. So, also wanted to thank Marcus Sheffer and John Becker and the folks from EPA for their help yesterday. We did have all-day training yesterday for folks that wanted some more in-depth hardcore education. Okay. Up next, we have Charlotte Katzenmoyer with the Lancaster Department of Public Works. And for anyone who is familiar with the city of Lancaster, over the last 10 years, we've seen a massive overhaul in terms of greening their infrastructure, and there was a massive green roof movement that occurred in the city of Lancaster. So she's going to talk a little bit about that and where Lancaster stands in terms of sustainability and where things are going. Okay. Charlotte?
Thank you. So the natural resource stewardship doesn't end at the borders of Millersville campus. Lancaster has really made a huge endeavor in greening and sustainability, both in our natural built environment, but also with our buildings and CNG conversion of our vehicles, fleet. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our green infrastructure program and why am I talking about stormwater at a green building council like this. But stormwater is the next frontier of sustainability. We have far too long, since the Clean Water Act was implemented some 42 years ago, have neglected the stormwater issue. I started in this career long ago when I was growing up in Akron, Ohio, and Cuyahoga River was catching fire, and that was the beginning of the Clean Water Act, and that was why the Clean Water Act was passed. And we've done a lot to clean up the industrial part of that water pollution, but we have neglected the stormwater part. There are over 14,000 water bodies that are impaired, and 50% of those impairments are because of stormwater pollution. So that is the next frontier. EPA has put a huge focus on managing stormwater in a more environmentally and sustainable way, and they've really touted Lancaster's approach to green infrastructure to help solve that stormwater problem. So just a brief overview about Lancaster, and when we talk about the Chesapeake Bay, the reason that Lancaster is a big red bullseye for the Chesapeake Bay cleanup is because not only because of the city's combined sewer system, but also because we're a huge agricultural area. So both of those drivers are huge pollutants to the nutrients in the Chesapeake Bay. So our problem is that we're one of 770 communities around the country that have a combined sewer system. And if you don't know what a combined sewer system is, it's where the stormwater and the sewage from the buildings collect into one pipe. And 85% of the time in Lancaster, we can capture that at the treatment plant. But during heavy rainstorms, we can't capture all of that flow and not overwhelm the treatment plant. So there are overflows that happen of that mixture of sewage and stormwater that go directly to the Conestoga River. That ends up in the Chesapeake Bay. And on an annual year, we typically generate over 750 million gallons of overflows to the Conestoga River. Just to put that into perspective, that's over 1,100 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Our original long-term control plan that was approved called for gray infrastructure, like many combined sewer systems in the country are building, either large storage tanks or deep underground tunnels that store that combined sewage and treat it at the treatment plant when the capacity is freed up. But that approach for Lancaster would have cost over $300 million. Our green infrastructure plan showed that we could treat stormwater and treat it at the source and use a natural environment to infiltrate that or evapotranspire that stormwater before it gets into our pipe. And we can do that at a cost of $140 million. We knew that doing nothing was not an option. Like many cities, we had an administrative order from EPA directing us to either build the storage tanks or do something as an alternative, or we faced hefty fines on a daily basis. So the green infrastructure plan showed that we looked at the impervious area, because that's what stormwater is generated from, is the hard surfaces. And as you can see from this pie chart, the majority of the land is not in public hands. So the city could not do this alone. We could not build green infrastructure on enough public land to solve the problem. So we needed to incentivize private property owners to build green infrastructure. And we did that by doing demonstration projects and leading by example. We wanted to build them first so that we could show property owners what they could do on their property to help solve the problem. So looking at Lancaster, the purple area is the separate sewer area, which most communities have. and the colored areas were the combined system, which is the older urban core of the city. But this shows it in relation to the Chesapeake Bay, and we are one of many communities in the Chesapeake Bay that have a combined system. Washington, D.C. is probably the largest. Baltimore is another combined system. Just in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Wilkes-Barre, and Lancaster are other communities within the Chesapeake Bay that have this similar problem. This is a busy graphic from our green infrastructure plan, but I'll break it down for you. We categorized every impervious area type, and we calculated how much area is within each one of those impervious areas, like roadways, parks have impervious area, sidewalks, flat roofs, sloped roofs, and we applied a green technology. What BMP or what green technology can we use for each of those impervious areas? And then we set a goal. How much of each of those impervious areas do we need to manage to achieve our ultimate goal? And we calculated the runoff reduction that we could achieve by implementing a green technology within each one of those impervious areas. And we also calculated the pollutant load reduction because we have to meet the Chesapeake Bay cleanup requirement. So we determined that if we manage 55% of the impervious area, we can achieve 1 billion gallons of runoff reduction by building green infrastructure. So we felt, and we could do it at half the cost of building gray storage. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of these different examples that we built, again, to lead by example. Brandon Park, you say, how can you make a park any greener? Well, it's about managing stormwater from the surrounding area within that park by building different types of BMPs. So we built rain gardens at bump outs, porous clay courts, porous parking stalls within the driveway, porous basketball courts, and we were able to manage 4 million gallons of stormwater just within this one park. And we're doing it on a business case looking at a cost per gallon because we're comparing it to those gray storage tanks. So we want to make sure that we're building this cost effectively and less than half the cost of a gray system. So this is just the before and after. We actually got some traffic calming from the rain gardens that we added in curb extensions. This is a busy street that children walk to a nearby elementary school. And so those rain gardens actually manage stormwater, but it also calms traffic. This is a before and after of, you can see the erosion. This was actually a natural stream bed. If you looked at the historical stream maps of Pennsylvania, this was, Brandon Park was an area where there was a natural stream. That stream is now base flow in our largest combined sewer pipe underneath the park. So you can see that water wanted to go where it used to go. It wanted to go through the streams that used to be through this park. So we were able to green that with some bioretention. You can see the parking stalls that are porous, but the drive lane, because of trash trucks and buses that come through there, we didn't want to make the drive lanes porous, but we made the parking stalls and the basketball courts. This is before and after of the porous basketball courts, and you can see some of the rain gardens that surround the basketball court. And we also wanted to look at parking lots because, as you saw, 32% of the city's impervious area is covered by parking lots. So, but all of those parking lots are owned by private owners. Very few of them are owned by the city, but there were 4 that we were able to green that are owned by the city. So this is the before and after of adding tree trenches and bioretention and porous asphalt. But we also had a porous concrete test strip that a University of Maryland professor is continuing to do research on. And so he asked if he could put it in one of these parking lots so that he could continue measuring the porosity and how well it maintains that porosity over time. So we were able to green those 4 parking lots for a cost of $240,000 and capture over 1.5 million gallons of stormwater within those 4 parking lots. Green roofs, as you heard earlier, the city has, now it's over 100,000 square feet of green roofs. This is a little bit old text that's on there. So we have a huge movement to green our rooftops. We have a lot of flat roofs and a lot of opportunities to install green roofs. We added built an annex onto City Hall, so we added a green roof onto that, that annex that we just built. We're also looking at green alleys. You can see the before picture at the top there of one of the green alleys, one of the alleys that, and the city has over 20 miles of alleys that have really not had a lot of attention to them because of a multi-hauler trash system that the city had before Mayor Gray took office. And then he implemented a single hauler trash program. So we had over 26 trash haulers operating on these alleys, and they just tore them up. So you can see there was not a lot of investment in them prior to going to a single hauler. But we were able to now green those alleys and really improve the property value. And that's the other benefit of green infrastructure. There's just so many added benefits, socio and economic benefits, besides the environmental benefits of green infrastructure. So this shows during construction and the before and after of that alley. And to show the economic benefit, there was a realtor that had a property that backed onto this alley. And when we were under construction, he came out and asked the construction crews what they were doing. The construction crews told him that they were building the first green alley in the city. And he went back and he said, good, I can go back and raise my asking price. And he actually did. I went on the multi-list and looked, and he added to the multi-list description that adjacent to the city's first green alley. So it was showed some of the economic benefit that we got out of this. So we were able to green this alley for a cost of just 10% additional over the traditional approach of pavement. And this is one of the neatest projects that we've completed so far. If any of you know where Lancaster Brewing Company is, this is an intersection that we had received some red light enforcement money from PennDOT to improve and get rid of the merge lane. You can see it on the bottom there, the merge lane that came off of Plum Street. We had lots of accidents and residents complaining about the number of vehicle accidents at this intersection from people not coming from Lancaster Brewing Company with one too many hop hogs, but because motorists do not like to yield properly. So they did not yield at the end of that merge lane, and we had lots of accidents. So we were able to envision what it might look like by adding rain gardens and adding an outdoor patio for the Lancaster Brewing Company that never had the opportunity before. We had a narrow sidewalk in front of the restaurant that did not have the opportunity for outdoor seating. The brewing company added a sign in the restaurant prior to us constructing it. And we were able to manage over 1.5 million gallons within this intersection. And just some pictures of the porous patio. This actually doubled the revenue of the restaurant during the summertime. They actually, in the raised planting bed, they have some urban gardening going on. They actually were able to grow some of their own produce that they used in the restaurant. And some more pictures. We actually did a public art project of a cistern that captured rooftop runoff and a public art project. And overflow from that cistern goes into that planting bed. And we did an educational placement for the restaurant for children that come in to learn about how to manage stormwater and why it's important. Tree canopy is also important. Most urban centers want to be in the 40 to 45% range of tree canopy, just because of the reducing the heat island effect, reducing temperatures, carbon sequestration. So there's lots of benefits from increased tree canopy. The Department of Conservation and Natural Resource did a LIDAR study of Lancaster County as a whole, and the city was at 28% tree canopy. So we know that we have a long way to go to get to that 40 to 45% goal. So our status is we have now this is again a little bit old graphic, we now have about 150 projects in various stages of design or construction. And after the completion of those, we will have managed over 40 million gallons of stormwater. We have a long way to go, but this is a 25-year plan. So this is just the beginning of that plan. We also have to pay for it. Typically, you can see that in the city, on the left is the number of parcels. Most of the parcels are owned by single-family homes. However, on the right, the impervious area covered by those single-family homes is only 17% of the impervious area. So they're not the major generator of stormwater. The major generator of stormwater is in the commercial and industrial category. So they need to, we need to make sure that they are paying their fair share and we're not overburdening the residents for paying for this program. So we looked at the typical scenarios of how stormwater is paid for throughout the country. It's either through a stormwater fee, a property tax, or a sewer charge. So this shows for an average residential property, if we did it, if we charged them based on stormwater fee, they'd be paying less than half the cost that they would be paying if we did it based on their water consumption, the sewer charge, which has no relevance to the amount of stormwater that they're generating. And on the contrary, if you look at an industrial customer, their impervious area is much larger. So if we did it based on their property tax or sewer charge, they would not be paying their fair share towards solving the problem of stormwater. So we implemented just a couple of weeks ago a stormwater fee in the city, and we're getting ready to send out those bills, probably next week. We also did a website just to brand the campaign. We branded it Save It, Your Water, Your Money, Your City. That logo is on every city vehicle. There's a website that we have all the project information on. It'll house also the information about the stormwater fee. And hopefully in the future, we'll actually be able to put up, we're hoping to get a grant to have an interactive GIS database that a property owner can go on to onto their property, look at their impervious area, and kind of play with different scenarios. If I put a rain garden in this area, how much of stormwater am I able to manage? So that's the next step that we're hoping to move forward with. And I thank you and welcome you to Lancaster.
So thank you, Charlotte. It was very informative and actually, more content than I anticipated, which is great. Does anybody have any questions for Charlotte? I want to make sure that you guys have an opportunity to ask her any questions. Yes, sir.
I've actually got 3 short questions. The name of the first alley.
It's Alley 148.
No, what streets is it near?
Alley 148. Actually, you can Google Alley 148 in Lancaster, PA, and it'll come up on Google Maps. A lot of our alleys are actually named that way with numbers, so it actually does come up on Google Maps. But it's near Prospect Street.
Mine's on the list, by the way.
Okay.
Cost of maintaining the concrete, and I noticed it looked like some of the alleys had regular concrete where wheels go, but something a little bit more pervious in between. Is that a good way to do it?
Well, we're doing different prototypes. Some of our green alleys are completely asphalt, porous asphalt. That one that you saw, the first one, all of those homes have their garbage service on the rear of those properties. So that's why we wanted to have the concrete wheel paths so that for those garbage trucks. But we are doing different prototypes.
Okay. And I just wanted to mention that I put a rain garden in my backyard. It took me 4 hours to dig a hole and put some native plants in there. It's no problem at all, so do it.
It's good exercise. All right. Any other questions? Great. Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, and I mean, just to dovetail on that, I did do the first green alley in Harrisburg, which is located adjacent to Hack's campus. We called it the Urban Meadow, but this is not new, it's not complex. We took an old alley that was abandoned and we cut out the granite curbing. We repurposed that for seating for the students. We put in rain gardens, we added solar arrays, and it was a great project. So, all right, we have our keynote up next, and I have a bio here that I'd like to read. CJ and I enjoyed dinner last night. She asked me not to read the bio, but I told her I would. But the nice thing is Prince George's County is my hometown. It's where I was born and raised and went to high school. And for years, actually, it was one of the top 3 highest rated for crime, unfortunately. But Prince George's County has come a long way. CJ Lammers is a master environmental planner with the Planning Department of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission in Prince George's County, Maryland. She is currently working on implementation of new state legislation, which is something that I found so unique, was some of the mandates that they're getting from a state level, community planning projects, and an update to countywide green infrastructure plan, which is not much different from what we heard from Lancaster. She is a former supervisor of the environmental planning section, where she managed the review of land development applications for conformance with environmental policies and regulations for 11 years. She has a bachelor's degree in forest resource management from Southern Illinois University and a master's degree from the University of Virginia in urban and environmental planning. She is also a professor at George Washington University in DC in their landscape design and sustainable landscapes program, and has been a certified arborist since 1988. So everybody, please give CJ a warm welcome. Thank you.
Well, good morning. We're taping, so I'm gonna, even though I'm sure you could hear me if I didn't use this, we're going to use this.
It's better.
So, quite the pleasure to be here today. I'm really thrilled to get to hear what City of Lancaster is doing. How many of you had heard of Prince George's County through the low-impact development stormwater stuff? Nobody heard of Prince George's? Okay, thanks. She says, I have. Yeah, we've been at it for a while, trying to move the ball forward, if you will, on stormwater. I just got my fee was $60 for my rain tax, as they like to call it. And one of the things I want to talk about today is words, why they matter, and how we can move the ball forward. So, there's our triple bottom line, right? I got to keep that handy so we can look at that as we go. I have had the opportunity to speak at a lot of different conferences. It's been great. I've usually been speaking about our green infrastructure plan, although we define it right now as ecological green infrastructure, looking at those resources that are the highest and best that we want to preserve moving forward. But that's not why I'm here today. Actually, our new green infrastructure plan is going to embrace the full spectrum definition of green infrastructure. From that rain barrel that comes out of your gutter to the Chesapeake Bay, we're going to make that entire connection through this network. But that's a whole other talk. You'll have to come and hear me speak somewhere else. Oh, and while I'm doing my little intro business, would everybody grab one of these? Doesn't matter if it's white or green, because, you know, I'm also a professor. And there's going to be a quiz, just to wake you up, just to keep you going. Actually, I love to do surveys. I like to find out about people, what they're interested in, those kind of things. So if everybody would get a little slip, you'll need that as we're going through. So yes, I've taught at George Washington University for several years. The Sustainable Landscapes program is our new-ish program since 2007. It walks the students through all of the different aspects of sustainable landscapes. I've also taught at the University of Maryland, that's in Prince George's County. So we really appreciate having them there. So as I said, this is what I usually talk about, but we're not going to talk about that today. If I do get a little preachy up in here, it's because I am known as the Right Reverend Dr. C.J. Lammers. I am not a doctor, nor am I a reverend. But I do like to preach, and I like to preach the gospel of green infrastructure. So let's talk about making green the standard today. These are what my students are usually doing, sitting around under a tree. And what I taught at University of Maryland and quite a bit at George Washington University was woody plant identification. How boring is that? This is a white oak. It gets this big. It has leaves that look like this. The buds look like this. So I try to keep it fun, try to keep it funny, a little interactive. So I had to throw this in here just because it's fun. So when I was in college, way back in the day, I had to learn all these plant names, right? I learned Latin, and nobody took Latin. I didn't take Latin. So I would make up these games on how you could remember the names of the trees. So back then, I used to drink Stroh's beer. And the cans used to look like this. I couldn't believe I could find one back from the 70s when I was in college. But Pines plus Stroh's beer is Pinus strobus, right? White, Eastern white pine. And I said, oh, it's because the Stroh's beer can has white on it. Stroh's, white, oh, I can get that. And white pine, does anybody know how many needles per bundle white pine has? 5, somebody said 5, that's right. W-H-I-T-E, 5. That's how you can remember. Red pine, some of them have 3, so 2 or 3, that doesn't always work. But just trying to keep things fun and light. So there we go, everybody's got a handout, this is not a quiz. So question number 1, and this is going to be interactive. I really, I get tired of lecturing to undergraduate students who just sit there like lumps and say, when are you going to put your PowerPoint on the web? When are you going to put it on, You got to come to class. I used to love it. The undergrads never came to class. They'd wait for me to post the PowerPoint, right? I'd do it the day before the quiz. And I would have stuff that wasn't on the PowerPoint that was on the quiz. So you had to come to class to know what was going on. Okay. So we're going to do what I like to call list, shout, circle. So using your little piece of paper, why do you care about sustainability? Just write down a couple quick words for me. Come on. No grades in this class, but just write down a couple of quick words. Why do you care about sustainability? Because you got 25 grandkids and you want them all to, have a healthy planet? What is it? Okay. Real quick, now let's do a couple of shout-outs. Who's got one for me? You're sitting in the front. Fellow sponsor.
I wrote down survival.
Survival. Oh, that's a great word. That's a good word. Okay. Anybody else? Why do you care? The future? Yep. Anything else?
Save money.
Saves money! Yay! I love it. Anybody else? This is what we're talking about here. Natural resources. Okay, we got one in this circle. So,
For the children.
for the children. Yeah, I'm hearing that. Social justice?
No.
Right? I'm sorry?
No.
Health? Right, right. All good reasons, right? All good reasons why we care about it, why we're here. And, sometimes we might need a reason. So out of the reasons that I chose, I just made them up. Either pick A, B, or C, or put one from your list, and circle whichever one resonates for you the most. Okay? Just do that real quick. Come on, humor me. Humor me. I'm a poor government employee. I don't get paid much, so, come on, help me out here. Go through this exercise, because I am going to collect these at the end. You don't have to put your name on it, no gold stars, I'm sorry. All right, so those are, some reasons why we might care. I did I called it livability for the Maryland Municipal League. I don't know if you have one of these in Pennsylvania, but the Maryland Municipal League is all of the local mayors and planning boards and commissioners and all the local kind of lower jurisdiction folks all get together, and they have a conference every year. And they said, CJ, come and talk to this group. And I said, what do you want me to talk about? They said, sustainability. I said, no offense to any electeds in the room, but they're not going to grasp sustainability, and they're really not going to care that much. So let's use a different word. Livability. Oh, that's something elected officials can get behind. We want a livable community, a place where we want to live. Well, what things challenge that? This is Hurricane Sandy. We all know what happened. I love to see, I don't know if you can see this in the back, it says 2012 Sandy Huff Puff, but you will not blow Ocean City away. Well, they didn't blow Ocean City away, but they sure blew New Jersey. Sure blew New Jersey off the map. Right? So why do we care about that stuff? Well, pretty severe property loss that we all pay for. I love this graphic. Watch as it changes. This is a flood archive from 85 to 2007. Global flooding. To me, the biggest issue about sustainability is flooding. We live in Prince George's County in the coastal plain. We've got huge, wide floodplains. And when that water falls, don't you know, creek gonna rise. And that's really, I think, one of the biggest problems. So is that something that you care about? You know, I was trying to figure out, you know, what do these elected officials care about? What can we get them excited about? How about disease? Flooding causes disease. And you know, we haven't really seen it that much, and I'm surprised that Hurricane Sandy didn't result in more disease because of all those sewer systems backed up, all of those houses not being functional. So yeah, there's lots of disease. This is actually a picture I took, it's faded out a little bit, of, I just love it. It's our Department of Natural Resources said, they did their climate analysis and they said, okay, Maryland's up here in 2000. By 2100, we will have the climate of Florida in the mid-Atlantic. And this is, you know, based on unchecked carbon emissions. Yeah, Florida. Boy, I'm going to have to redo my whole woody plants curriculum because they ain't going to be the same plants around. And that's what I talk about with my students now. If you're planting a tree today, should you be planting something that's barely survivable in this condition? Shouldn't you be planting for 100 years from now when it's going to be hotter? We got to think about these things. So if repetitive flooding isn't enough to convince you, or you know, the need for practices, then what can? Ooh, this is weird. Huh. Okay. I never played it in the slideshow mode, so I never saw that. Okay. So what is it? You know, I think loss of water supply for us in this area is going to be huge at some point. You know, we talk about all this water that comes down from the sky. It's free. It's the same water that, you know, comes out of your tap, more or less. So, you know, why isn't that? The point that I'm trying to get at here is what motivates you may not be the same thing that motivates the person you need to change their mind. So you've got to think about how do we move the ball forward. Food supplies. People think I'm crazy. Well, people think I'm crazy anyway. But people think I'm crazy when I talk about, I have to show you here. For Bill's sake, I'll show you where I live. I live out in this rural area. For those of you who don't know, this is the Washington, D.C. is the diamond that's cut out. We are just to the east of Washington, D.C. All this rural area that's in the yellow does not have water and sewer service. So we're on private wells and private septic. Someday my well ain't going to work anymore. You know why? Because the aquifer recharge area is right where these cities are, right up here. The aquifer recharge area is already built. So there's issues that we're going to have to deal with. Oh, but why people think I'm crazy? Because someday it's not going to be affordable to ship grapes from freaking Brazil. They're going to be $50 a bunch because of how much gas it costs to get them there. Guess what? We can grow grapes in Prince George's County. Fungus is a problem, but yeah, we can grow grapes in Prince George's County. We're just figuring that out. And for those of you in this area, very much like Maryland, I would imagine, the tobacco buyout, the people stopped smoking, right? So farmers weren't growing tobacco anymore. Where our soil is perfect for tobacco because it's crappy, it doesn't have a lot of nutrients, and it's got high clay content. Perfect for growing tobacco. Well, what the heck are we going to do now? We're not going to grow beans and corn to feed cattle, to feed people. We got to start growing food to feed people. And look at where we are. If we can't start growing food here to serve the about 10 million people in the DC area, man, we're perfectly situated to provide that food supply. And whether it's greenhouses growing broccoli and asparagus or anything else, that food supply is going to be a big, big deal on how we use our land in the future. So, or maybe you just care because green is the next new thing, or that green can make green. There's my friend who said green makes money, so let's do that. I'm all for that. Whatever reason will get you there. I chose the title "Move the Ball Forward" because I'm a former rugby player, and the rugby teams here are England and New Zealand, two best women's rugby teams in the world. So I just had to put that up there. But what I like about rugby is there's none of this sissy, oh, I'm just going to step back and throw the ball, 40 yards downfield. You gotta work to make it up the field because you can kick the ball forward if you want, but you lose possession when you kick the ball. But you have to pass to someone who is behind you. So I like this metaphor because it's everyone moving the ball forward together. So why is it a good thing? And I'm doing a little bit of reverend preaching to the crowd here. But I want to help you develop your arguments for when you're standing at that bar and saying, oh, you're talking to somebody who doesn't really believe in green. And maybe you need to, have a few facts in your pocket. Well, these are the remaining old growth forests in 1990 from what they were in 1620. Tens of thousands, if not millions of acres of forests are gone. This is the one that kind of scares me the most. The public forest is in dark green, which is mostly in the west. Private forest, that's everything on the East Coast. So as you pointed out, private property is where a lot of the impacts are happening. They take up a lot of the land area, but do they have the most impervious surface? No, because they got all the trees. So we can't do this on public land alone. And boy, are we garbage producers. Somebody was talking to me last night about a book called Garbology. And I was thinking about the garbage warrior who made houses out of trash and just all these things. We got to stop this. Our landfill was supposed to be full 4 years ago. That was actually one of the projects that I did in my former job with the commission. 4 years ago, we were supposed to be closed down in our landfill. Now, I don't know how much they're projecting that we have future capacity, but we built a single stream recycling system, which, nobody, I still go out to, most of my relatives are in Illinois, and I go out there, and I finish my soda, and I go, well, where's your recycling? Oh, just throw that in the trash. Don't you know I took it back with me to my hotel and recycled it there? Yeah, people ask me what CJ stands for. It's not short for anything, it's an adopted name. But, if I don't want to tell them the whole big long story why I changed my name, I just say, it stands for Conservation Junkie. And I do own that URL, by the way, website coming to a place near you. But, don't put that sticky note in the trash in front of me, because I'm a maniac. I will yell at you. And all my coworkers know that, and everybody's got it. Who's that person in your office? The recycle conservation junkie, recyclosaurus. There you go. All right, so we're good. But we've extended the life of that landfill at a huge environmental savings. I mean, all of those trucks, if they weren't here coming to our landfill, would go across the Potomac River and down into southern Virginia. That's a shame. That's a shame. Here's the best statistic of all, people. I had an intern make this graphic for me. Do you like it? The flush of an average toilet in the United States, 1.5 gallons, is more clean water than most people in evolving countries get in a day. 1.5 gallons for each flush. Why the heck do we do that? It's insane. Anybody have a dog that drinks out of the toilet? I had one confession in the front. Yeah, that's clean water. They know that. They're like, hey, why did you put a bowl in the bathroom for me? It's all good. And one of the biggest problems that we have is that we're living on borrowed time. All of the energy that we use today is borrowed, old energy capital, if you will. if you tried to run, a business or a bank account the way that we're going through energy, you'd be bankrupt. Because, solar, oil and gas and all those kinds of fuels are basically just old solar energy, right? At one time, the Earth, gave us these resources. So we can't keep living like that. So now we're going to move on to. So I'm trying to help you shape your thinking around. The first question was, well, why do I feel this way? Now I want you to turn that into a philosophy. This is very hard. I have my graduate students write an entire paper on their sustainability philosophy when they first enter this 18-month intensive program. And they're like, oh, I don't know how to write a philosophy paper. And I'm like, why are you passionate? Was it your grandpa or your grandma that had a garden that made you want to get dirty? What was it? What was it that got there? So what I'd really like to, let me see here. Yeah, so turn your answer from number one into a philosophy. And you don't have to write this down. This is about you thinking about, why do I care about these things? Feel free to write on your little paper if you want to, but because it's good for the earth, I don't know. Here's mine. I'm not particularly religious. I was raised Catholic, but I'm not particularly religious. But to me, it doesn't matter what your belief system is. The earth is a sacred thing. It was given to us. Or we have it to use, whatever your faith base is. So why don't we care about it more? I just don't get it. And to me, everything I do, I'm so whacked, I can't do a single, an errand and just do one errand. I won't. It's like if I can't go to the library and the pet store and the bank and do 14 things while I'm out, I won't go. So it's just that, because the earth is sacred. I really encourage you to get some kind of mantra that helps you, that's in your heart, that says, this is why I do this. And it might seem simple and woo-woo and foo-foo, but it's going to help you when you're standing there talking to that person that just makes you crazy because they can't understand why this is the right thing to do. And as green people, we got a heck of a handicap because we're not good at talking about why this stuff is good. We know it's good, we know it's righteous, we know it's the right thing to do, but we don't know how to convey that. So I'm gonna help kind of work through that. Let me get just a little quick drink here. So words really, really matter. For example, would I say sacred to everybody that I talk to? Probably not. I have some friends who would say, well, sacred is religion. Now you're talking about God. And I'm like, well, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But you've got to care about what words you use. So how do we get there? There we go. Preaching to the converted. We can talk to each other all we want. And we learn from each other, and that's great. That's one of the things I've really liked about the green industry, is that we always want to share and learn from each other. But if we keep talking to each other, and I loved it that our speaker this morning said TMDLs and all these things, we know what that means. But when you're talking to somebody else, they don't know what those things mean. And as a middle child in a family of 6 kids, I just really want everybody to get along. I want everybody to communicate. I want everything to be great. But even in my own department, people don't know what these words mean. So we need to kind of look at things a different way. This is from Choose Clean Water Coalition. And if you ever want the most awesome, easy graphic to explain clean water to somebody, go to their website. They've got a really cool graphic that when you slide down the page, it pops up why water is important. Anyway, the one that I like the most out of this list, well, it's hard to choose. You know, we talked about BMPs everywhere. Well, best management practices could be anything. Oh, it's just like I love the word plan. Think about the word plan for a minute. I could have a plan to go out for drinks tonight. I could write a plan for land use. I could write a plan to take care of our water quality issues. It's a very confusing word. So the point here is thinking about what words we use. Notice I said green stormwater infrastructure here. Because I'm of the old school, when the EPA started calling green infrastructure storm, I was like, no! That's not what green infrastructure is. So I call it green stormwater infrastructure. But words really, really matter. So another little interactive piece here. I'd just like to know what kind of words you have trouble explaining. Anything come to mind of something you have trouble explaining to other people? Cisterns I love, because that's an old, isn't it what's old is new again? You go in New York City, if you're above a certain height in buildings, you have to have a cistern because the firefighters may not get the pressure. Very interesting. What words, any words? Impervious? I didn't put that one up there. Not only do people not know what it means, they can't say it. And they say impervious when they mean pervious, and anybody? Come on. Xeriscaping. Yeah, xeriscaping. Any word that starts with an X, the Scrabble people are going nuts, but the rest of us are like, no, yeah. And native plants, boy, you can start a 3-hour bar argument on native plants alone. Okay. Watershed is an interesting one. People are starting to understand better what that means. And part of what I really think why that is, do you have signs in Pennsylvania that say you're entering the Chesapeake Bay watershed and, People get that. It's educational. Yeah, my boss is not particularly green, but he came to me the other day and he said, first of all, he's new. Oh, and he used to be an elected official. So I have to be careful how I talk about elected officials around him, because I'm like, oh yeah, dude, okay. So he said, make me a map of all the watersheds in Prince George's. I said, okay. He said, well, you can see it. The red. Oh, I didn't get a chance to throw this part in, but words really matter. Graphics matter more. These two maps are water quality based on actual sampling. You don't need to see the close-up details. Red is bad, right? When our graphics department first did these maps, the very poor category was kind of a light salmon. I said, no, give me the worst color red that you can find, the most fire engine red. Because we got to show that we've got water quality issues. Okay, so that's kind of where we're going with that. Okay, so I love these little word clouds. Google Images just changed. Did you notice that? Does anybody use Google Images? Usually you could just go on and go, oh yeah, I'll take that one. They've gone all copyright on us all of a sudden. But anyway, I love going on there and saying, show me a word cloud for these different things. So here's number 2. So get out your little quiz slips and help me out here. So how do you define sustainability? One or two words. Yeah, that's the hard part, isn't it? Just a couple of words. A phrase. Okay, let's do the shout part. Yes, sir.
You can keep doing it.
You can keep doing it. forever,
Yeah, right.
infinity,
And everybody can keep doing it.
and everybody can keep doing it. I like it. I like it.
Reuse.
Reuse. Right, limited resources. Anybody else? What is this then? Come on.
Equal balance.
Equal balance. Oh, I like that. That's from my economics guy. I'm gonna come back to you.
Consumption less than regeneration.
Say-
Consumption less than regeneration.
Consumption less than regeneration. I like that. Simple, straight to the point. You're working on your philosophy there. I see that. That's great. Okay, let's move on. Oh, so be sure to circle one. Here's my answers, just for fun. You don't have to take my answer or list the one. And I hope you're seeing my theme here. A is social, B is economic, C is environment. So which one of those really resonates with you? Or perhaps, use your own. Just circle either A, B, or C, or the one that you listed that you thought was most applicable. I love these word clouds because this is what it was in 1993 when a group of Oregon scientists started looking at sustainability. These were the words that they came up with. 10 years later, these are the words they came up with, defining the same thing. Because this landscape is changing so fast, and the science can't even keep up with it, the urgency is definitely there. I hope it is. Or maybe we can all just move to this utopian society where there's windmills and everyone's holding hands singing Kumbaya and everybody's got a garden and, everything's all good. Okay, so the accepted definition of sustainability, I'm sure you've seen this, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. I actually think that's kind of what, do forever for everybody, and, less consumption than regeneration. That's great. This was from the Brundtland Commission, Our Common Future. This is a really interesting document. If you're bored someday and want to look up the Brundtland Commission, this Our Common Future report has some really good stuff in it. And it seems to me one of the last times that the world kind of got together and said, we're all in this together and we need to pay attention to these things. So good stuff. So I like to use the acronym, I guess, of C, S-E-E, for social, economic, and environment. And people call that the triple bottom line. And what I really like about this, and you've seen this hundreds of times, I'm sure, is that sweet spot in the middle is where these three things come together in equal measure. But we know that that's probably not the case, but, we'd like to think that, what's good for the economy is good for people, what's good for the environment is good for people, and what's good for the environment is good for the economy. We'd like to think that all those things are connected. But the problem is, they're not equal. So, what is it like in a world where the environment is the driving factor? Well, that would be me. Should I, run for elected office? Some people have said that I should. I've probably done too many things in my past that are, don't look on my Facebook page, you'll find things that are not good. But, when the environment is the sole and most important thing, those other two issues kind of shrink to the background and maybe aren't as prominent as they should be. Well, what happens if the social aspect is the most important in your mind? Well, people have called it socialism. Okay. Some people have said it's a really bad thing. Well, is it a bad thing if we put people first? Maybe it is if we don't think about the economic impacts and the impacts on the environment. Oh, okay. So then what if economic is the dominating factor? Well, which one of these scenarios have we been operating under for forever? This one, right? The economic decisions drive everything. And, you know, I had about a 3-hour talk that I tried to get down to, an hour. But one of the things that we don't talk about, let's go back to those grapes. Do we pay the full price for those grapes? All of the associated costs? You think we do? Okay, well, the workers down there don't have health insurance. There are social costs. They also don't have environmental protections like we do. There's no environmental protection agency making sure that they're putting the right chemicals and, whatever. Y'all are never going to eat grapes again, are you? Just all of those, there are other associated costs that we don't pay for those grapes that are passed on in those other communities. And any piece of furniture, anything you can buy, I don't think we pay the full cost of that production. I really don't. There's been a lot of great stuff lately. I don't have my phone on me at the moment, but all the minerals that go into our phone, we don't really pay for all of those things. Been a lot of good articles lately. So this is back to the Maryland Municipal Association. I asked them to shout out words to define a livable community. And I always thought a livable community was kind of a low bar. Just livable. Not fantastically livable, but just livable. And in talking with people, they said, oh, that's not what I think it means. I said, oh, what do you think it means? He said, oh, a place where I would want to live. And oh, okay, now I can see that word completely differently and go, oh, so these are the things that describe a community you would want to live in. Well, guess what? They fit neatly into the triple bottom line. And many of them fit in more than one category. So these are, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn by saying these are not particularly sophisticated folks, and this isn't their area of expertise. And even folks on planning commissions, land use law, not their area of expertise. But I could see the light bulb starting to go off, and oh, yeah, okay. We need to look at all three of these aspects when we make a decision. And I'd like to think that they're going back to their town halls and their commission meetings and going, well, I see the economic benefits of this super Walmart, but, and if you Google me, you'll see I'm finding a Walmart in my community right now. But what does that super Walmart bring? Well, it would bring some jobs. There's an existing Walmart across the street. Did I mention that? Yeah. So it will bring some jobs. It will bring some economic benefit. At first I was thinking, oh, well, it'll bring taxes. Oh, no, they got a tax break from the municipality. I'm not bringing any taxes. So, like trying to get people to think through those decisions using these three parameters, I think is very helpful. So let's do that. Let's triple bottom line a green roof. We'll start with Charlotte. Extends the life of the roof, so that's an economic benefit. Okay? Any other benefits of green roof? Stormwater, so that's which one of these three? Environment. Excellent. Reducing heat island. Awesome. Triple bottom line it? Who's that? If you reduce the heat island, which of these benefits is it?
Economy.
Yay! Yeah, reducing the heat island is going to help us people. We figured out, sorry, City of Lancaster, we have 52% tree canopy. We're also 485 square miles, so we're a little bigger. But that 52% tree canopy, that gets social benefits, economic benefits, and environmental benefits, for sure. But it reduces our overall temperature. The U.S. Forest Service went through their iTree program and did this ecosystem services study for us. 1 degree. Now that doesn't sound like much, but 1 degree makes a big difference over time. I saw it come into winter.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that they do have some upfront costs for structural. I'm all for green roofs, for the record, but they do have to be held up, so one does have to take that into account.
That can be a cost. It doesn't necessarily have to be if you're putting it on a building that already exists. I was commenting last night at dinner at all these buildings that have been redone with, you know, the existing shells and, you know, the greenest building is the building that already exists. Yes, yes. So good stuff. So we can take any of those decisions, like, you know, we want to do green roofs. Name another social benefit of a green roof. They're pretty and, what did you say? Aesthetic, yeah. I'm sorry. I did landscaping for too many years. I can't hear it so good. Yeah, aesthetics. Wouldn't you want to have one of those offices that overlooks that? I know I would. Yeah. So definitely some feel-good benefits. Okay, number 3. This is where you get to do your analysis of yourself. Did anyone who came in a little bit later not have a survey? Okay, everybody got a survey to answer? Yeah. Okay, so just, I think you probably know yourself enough to put some percentages in there. Starting to get a feel for what things are important to you, that's good. So, being as, you know, because the earth is sacred is my little mantra, this is where I end up. About 60% on the environment, 30% on social and economic. Meh. Okay, so that's good. So what do I need to do? What do I need to do as a massive, self-described tree hugger? I need to educate myself on the other 2 elements so that I can talk to someone who's a 60% economic. So that I can talk to someone who's a 60% social. And help to understand what their concerns are to be able to address those concerns. So how can I address my social and economic weaknesses? This was just a catchphrase. Social studies. Hurrah! So we just redid our comprehensive plan is the term I use, and we call it a general plan, but it's our comprehensive land use plan. I just redid it. And one of the things we really wanted to start looking at was what is the intersection of the built environment and our human health factors. We have a terrible obesity problem. 70% of our restaurants are fast food. Many of our streets don't connect, which means more vehicle miles traveled, which means more pollution. Why do you think they don't connect? Because it costs money, but it's also crossing streams. Because we're in the coastal plain, remember, we got so many streams. Our communities don't connect, so it's not easy to go for a walk. There's lots of cul-de-sacs, and you can't walk from here to there because of all these damn streams everywhere. And these aren't even all of them. These are just what you can see at the scale. So, yeah, so we have some difficulties. So we did research on human health issues. We're addressing canopy coverage in low-income communities. We're calling it living in the shade. We're focusing on communities that are 65 and older and 18 and younger. And why so much do you think 18 and younger we're focusing tree canopy? Because it's good, they can be here longer.
So you can educate.
Asthma rates. Remember, we're east of Washington, D.C. Okay, I have to do my little thing. So I grew up in Aurora, Illinois. Does anybody know where Aurora, Illinois is? It's west of Chicago. Do you think I lived on the west side or the east side? I lived on the west side. Every major city, go and look at it. every major city. The west side is where the higher income people live. The east side is where the lower income people live. In historic cities. Am I right for Lancaster? She's shaking her head, yeah. Why do you think that is? It's all environment. Because they used to burn coal and wood stoves, and the wind blows from west to east, so the more polluted air pollution neighborhoods are to the east. History, okay? So we are east of Washington, D.C. And the whole Washington, D.C. region has an ozone problem, asthma rates are very high, so we're trying to address canopy coverage in low-income communities. And, you know, our chairman of the board, Bill, over there, from Prince George's County, had to mention the crime rate, which is at historic lows, I want to say. But did you know there's been tons of studies that have been done around reducing crime by planting trees? It's incredible. People relate to trees. People want to sit out in front of, you know, under a tree. It's great. Really, really good. Yes. Oh yeah, I forgot I had to sing here. That's our tree canopy. If you count all land masses, we have so much water that the canopy percentage goes down to 50%, but this is just land. We only looked at land, we have 52% forest and tree canopy. And in our comprehensive plan, we said, maintain that. Not a no net loss goal, but to maintain that 52% moving forward. We have a population of 880,000, higher than 5 states. And we're expected to get another 1 million people into the DC region. How are we going to maintain that 52%? It's a tough one. But, okay, so what I was talking about was, I'm weak in social aspects and I'm weak in economic aspects. So what do I do to help educate myself on those other 2 circles of sustainability? We did an ecosystem services study. We took that 52% out for a ride, and we said, what economic benefits do we get from this 52%? And just to be clear, 44% of that is forest, 8% is just tree canopy. We were able to separate that out. If you want to know more about that, or if you want a copy of that study, I'd be happy to send that along to you. Stormwater runoff, annual reduction, $12.8 billion with a B dollars. What that means is we would have to build $12.8 billion worth of stormwater infrastructure to replace that canopy. So every time that an elected official is sitting there looking at a site that shows 10, 20, 100 acres of trees being cleared, I hope that number sticks in their head. Because yeah, we can manage the stormwater that comes off that one site, but I'm not sure that we really have a grasp on the impacts of stormwater runoff. So we got to say the value of what we have. Pollutant removal, $20 million annually. All right, I'll tell that story when I get to it. Okay, so here's Prince George's case study. We're doing good. We're located in an environmentally sensitive area. Our population larger than 5 states. We also have environmental roots. Our former county executive went on, when he was county executive of Prince George's, we had the only forest conservation law. We had the only beginnings of a stormwater law in the state. Well, guess what? Our county executive went on to be governor. And that's kind of where Maryland's environmental heritage takes off. So we're in an area that already has some environmental roots. Here's so this part is about how did we move the ball forward? How did we make green the standard as much as it is, as much as it can be in our county? So this was our general plan in 2002. It was the first plan to basically do urban growth boundaries, if you're familiar with that, different levels of development in different areas. And it established environmental goals for the first time, and the one goal was tree canopy. Now, you don't usually see that in a comprehensive county-wide 485 square mile land use plan. But we said, if we really care about the environment, we've got to start putting things into these land use plans. And this is really the best way in any community, in my opinion, to move the ball forward. We could have jumped right to regulations and started rewriting the code. But A, we didn't have support for it. And B, we really didn't know yet what parts of the code we wanted to update. So okay, so I forgot this was a builder. So I love the Russian nesting dolls as a metaphor for how these documents work together. So if you're not a planner, let me just say the general plan is our comprehensive plan. That one is overriding. Then we have these things called functional master plans that are public safety, transportation. Every community's had one of those for forever. Public safety, historic conservation, all those kind of things. And then we have master and sector plans that deal with land use at smaller scales. And then you get into the regulatory plans of a site plan and forest and landscape plans. Well, we wanted to focus on getting what at the time in 2005 was the very first functional master plan for the environment to be passed. And the support for it was unanimous. Because you know what? Let me just back up for a second. You know what? Who could be against apple pie, flag waving, hugs from mom? This is all good. Because it's policy, baby. This is just a guide. It's a fat marker exercise. Okay? So getting things through on a policy scale is a lot easier than jumping right into regulations and rolling up your sleeves and going, we're going to change this law. So what we did was, there were 92 strategies in the plan that said things like, evaluate the current woodland conservation ordinance to reduce forest fragmentation. Okay, what elected official could be against that? And if you're dealing with particularly squishy people who don't want to quite get on board, you could say, consider evaluating the woodland conservation ordinance. You know what I mean? It's kind of a soft sell to get it in there, and I do this a lot. Go update the woodland conservation ordinance. So basically what it does is it sets up a work program. For us, it was for 5 years. It's as you said, it's a 20-year plan, but it gets implemented in small chunks in the budget. So how do you get things in the budget? Oh, it's in the plan. Oh, we're supposed to go look at these. Oh, so I got to put staff weeks in the budget. That's how you get this stuff moving. So we have 92 strategies. All but 12 of them have been implemented or are part of our day-to-day work now. Well, let me just go through these. I didn't realize this was building. The network is now the highest priority in the code for preservation. It's a guide, remember, but still, if you're building within the network, the application is going to be viewed differently than if you're building outside the network. You see the incentives involved in that? If you're building outside the network, no, I don't say this publicly, but you can clear property line to property line if you're outside the network. Because we're targeting our limited resources to inside that network. Wider stream buffers, good for water quality. We made recommendations in the plan for what they should be, and you know what? The elected officials exceeded the recommendations in the plan. It was great. They were actually kind of, oh, and I love to do this, is get them in competition. When we did the tree canopy stuff, we broke it out by councilmanic district. They eat this stuff up because they can go, hey, George, yeah, I got more in my district than you got in your district. You know how they love that stuff? So it's great to be able to, kind of help them move the ball forward. So, damn, I'm good. I'm just about on time. So let's do a David Letterman's top 10 how you can move the ball forward. Okay. And I did practice this part, and I was told that I have to shout the numbers. So, number 10. Oh, God, I got you all excited, and then I forgot it. Sorry. Use all of your spheres of influence. I thought of one last night that should be on here. Your family. How many of your kids have bugged you about recycling? In the 70s, that's how we got kids excited about it, was we taught it in the schools and they brought it home, right? So your clients, your professional sources, legislative and political processes, use all your spheres of influence to move the ball forward. So, number 10, get green solutions in any and all planning documents. If you can get a study in the budget that says, oh, we should evaluate a rain barrels program, and it's $5,000, that's how you get your foot in the door. And I can tell you, we did all this planning work in-house, and I'm happy to talk to you about how we did this. This is how you get grants. Am I right? You got a green infrastructure plan in place. It's a great way to get grants because you've already shown your commitment. All right, number 9. Get involved in professional associations. Well, you can kind of check that one off your list, right? Because you're here at greencon, you're working it, you're working the social aspect. Educate yourself and get training. That's why you're here. If a sales pitch is not what you're good at, get some training. If convincing other people is a hard thing for you, try practicing on a friend, or say, hey, I got to do this speech to the mayor tomorrow. Can I run some things past you? Get some help if you're not strong in some of those things. Know your elected officials before you need a favor. And we've got to learn these lessons from the other folks that are really politically savvy in the process. I don't malign developers. They're some of my favorite enemies. I mean, people, friends. Wait, I said that wrong. I don't malign developers because they are the engine that keeps a lot of our economy going. But they know the system. And we've got to learn from their playbook. They're friends with all the elected officials. They go to all the parties, We've got to start being able to work that. Number 6. Know the election cycle before your project starts. Do you want to change mayors in the middle of a construction project? Not pleasant. We're in the tidal portion of the Chesapeake Bay, so we have what's called Chesapeake Bay Critical Area within our county, and the state just changed the map. Now, we can't influence this at all at the local level. The map is what the map is. We have an election cycle coming up. And my boss came to me and said, put a schedule together for getting this through the current council. And I knew exactly what he meant. Because we got an election coming up. I don't want to deal with a whole new set of people who don't know squat about what we're talking about. Better the elected you know than the elected you don't know. So when we're planning out this project, I'm going, okay, the election's in November. They're not going to want to deal with anything, 2 weeks prior. You got to know those election cycles to be able to get something through. 5, read proposed legislation and provide comments. I don't know if your professional organization does any kind of legislative filtering for you, but that would be a good thing for them to get into and kind of help you understand what legislation's going on. That would be good. Number 4, volunteer in committees. I used to work landscaping, as I said, and I worked for a woman who had no knowledge of the landscape business. No knowledge of business. Didn't go to college. Was a music major. Actually, she did go to college. She was a music major. Never graduated. But you know how she got smart? She volunteered on committees. And she was, this is her. She was always listening to people seeking out smart people. When I get stuck on a project, I do a smart people tour. I go around and people eat that up. Oh, yeah, I'm coming up to Baltimore. Yeah, I'm on my smart people tour. Oh, yes, I'd be happy to provide some time for you. You know, seek out other people and get their advice. Number 3, spend extra time with your clients. Explain why green is better. They might already be on the bandwagon. Take more time. Explain to them why this is better. Use the triple bottom line to describe why it's better. Know and learn what people care about. This is a story that I paused on before. So, does anybody remember the series West Wing? I have it all on DVD. Loved that show. Loved it. Bartlett was my president for many years. Martin Sheen, that's my president. There's a great scene in there where a senator gets up and is filibustering on the floor. And they just can't figure out why this guy is filibustering. This is crazy. He's a supporter of the bill. He went on and on and on, and they finally figured out it was a health bill, that he had a nephew, or a grandson or something, that had autism, and there wasn't money for autism research in the bill. And I don't know why the senators don't just say, you know, this is what I want. But you got to know what they care about. Our former county executive got elected on the platform of livable communities, and boy, he was all about livable communities. And every time I saw livable communities, I put that livable communities. And did you know that green infrastructure is all about livable communities? And to be able to take that one phrase that he really liked and apply it to this stuff, we were in like Flint. Okay, number 1. Learn to schmooze. Now, I'm going to teach you something here today that you are never going to forget. And I meet people at conferences that I taught this 5, 6, 7 years ago, and they still remember. So, my spouse is a sign language interpreter. I am fluent in sign language. And so, I'm going to teach you the sign for schmooze. Okay, so now put your papers down. You need both hands. Most signs in sign language are both hands. Oh, you're clapping already. That's how you clap. Oh, she's clapping for me. I love it. Okay, you take one finger like this. The number 1 way to move the ball forward. And you go like this. Schmooze it. That's how. Come on, come on, come on, do it. You schmooze it. You schmooze it. And the more you beat it in sign language, oh yeah, I'm gonna schmooze that mayor. Don't forget to schmooze. And you know, you might think I'm this big extroverted person, right? Really, I'm a major introvert. But I have forced myself to become more of a schmoozer because you're a receiver. And because I want to see that ball move forward. So, getting out of your comfort. Oops. Oh, come on, I had one last slide. Okay. You know, moving the ball forward, definitely leading by example. Sweet Home Chicago is my former hometown. And if you don't recognize this, this is the City Hall. And not only did they put a green roof on the City Hall because it was an older building and could handle the weight, they've got a whole ecosystem up there. They've got bees and, you know, all kinds of stuff going on up there. And it was because their mayor wanted to lead by example. So that's what I have for you. Get out there and move the ball forward.
Yeah. Thank you, CJ. That was wonderful. I do take offense as a former quarterback to the sissy thing, throwing the ball. I could see how rugby without pads could kind of lead to
Could lead to a
wackiness.
befuddled mind.
Yes. Anybody have any questions for CJ?
Or comments or ways you've used to move the ball forward.
What was that website you said that had a great graphic about water?
Clean water, choosecleanwater.org.
It's the Clean Water Coalition.
Yep.
Yeah, Clean Water Coalition. And I'm happy to, you've got my email address here, happy to answer any questions. I just got a call from a guy in Washington State who just called me and said, geez, I can't get these elected officials, I can't get them moved. Can we brainstorm for 5 minutes? You know, feel free to give me a call if you have a situation that maybe I can help with.
Okay.
So, great.
We have about 5 minutes. We will make this PowerPoint available, correct?
Sure.
Okay. And just like your classes. And in